Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be greasing up the splines on both sides of the drive shaft, as well as replacing the boot on the swing arm to transmission interface there. So follow along, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Let's get started. Step one is with a T30 Torx to loosen up your little fender here. So 3 T30 Torx, boom, boom, boom. The next step is removing the rear wheel and exhaust muffler. To remove the rear wheel, it's just 5 Torx bits, and to get the exhaust off, it's a 15 millimeter on the exhaust clamp here, and then up top there, we can then remove our rear brake caliper with the same T45 that you used on the exhaust. And then we can remove our rear wheel speed sensor. This is just a T25 Torx, a little bolt there, and then a clip up here. And then with a T50 and a 15 millimeter wrench, we can go ahead and loosen up the top arm from our rear drive. So now when we do this here, we're not going to want to just pull this bolt out right away, just because then the rear drive is going to fall down. We're going to undo these plastic caps, but for now we'll just kind of undo the nut on the backside and leave the bolt in there. And then with a flathead screwdriver, we can go ahead and just pop this little plastic protective cap out. And then with a 24 millimeter socket on one side and a T55 Torx on the other, we can loosen up our lower rear drive mount. This is going to be relatively tight. And then once we have that out, we can kind of just pull up on our rear drive and slide the top mount out, set that aside, and then this is just going to come straight out. So these are our lower drive shaft splines, the ones that go into the rear drive. And as you can see, these are actually pretty sufficiently greased, I would say. But the ones we're really concerned about are the ones right here. So with a T30, we're going to go ahead and loosen up our right side of our swing arm here. So it's just these couple bolts. Move on over to the left side here. You can see there's another one of those little plastic caps. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of pop that out with a flathead screwdriver. Comes out pretty easy. And then there's a inner nut here. That is a 30 millimeter. So we're going to go ahead, loosen that. Don't need to take it totally out. And then internal to that is a 14 millimeter Allen. So we can go ahead and remove that. And then with a T50 Torx, we can go ahead and loosen up our lower shock bolt. And also it's a little bit easier to do this sometimes if you have these in. What I'm doing here is I'm just using a pry bar to pop the drive shaft out like that. So as you can see, I got the drive shaft right here. So what we're going to do is kind of inspect the U-joints here. We're just going to kind of move this back and forth looking for notchiness at all. And these feel nice and smooth. Go ahead and check the other side. Super nice and smooth. But the real reason that we are going down this far is to replace this boot. So as you can see there, the boot's ripped. Now it's ripped even worse. Now to grease these splines, there's a special spline grease that should be used. This is, I don't exactly know what kind of grease it is, but I'll have that linked below in the description. Now this part here is a little bit more difficult, so what we're going to do is I got that boot clipped in and installed, and I'm just going to kind of set this shock bolt, not necessarily holding anything, but just kind of put it in there. So I'm kind of supporting the swing arm there. I'm going to move back over here. So the shock is not in, but the swing arm has a lot of this play here so we can kind of pull it out and get those splines lined up. So we're going to kind of reach in here. What we're trying to do is just get this drive shaft kind of fished through here. Try and rotate it until you see it drop on, just like that. It slides right up. And then this has a little locking clip, so you can see it's kind of bottomed out there on the splines. I don't know if I'll kind of, you can see that it's come up to here, and just with the soft rubber mallet, give this a nice easy whack, and you'll feel it kind of clip in up there. Just want to make sure this is nice and square. There it is. So now the drive shaft's nice and clipped in. Now we're going to go ahead and get our right side swing arm started. So we're just going to get this side nice in and tightened down. The reason we're starting on the right side is because this side is fixed and the left side is adjustable. So we're going to have to adjust our bearing tension with that screw and lock nut style fastener on the other side. Now the left side here is a little bit different, kind of as I described, but what we're going to do is just line this up, and then we're going to get this started, thread this all the way down. This inner one is preloading the bearings, and then the outer is kind of holding everything together. Get this tightened up. We can now go ahead and reinstall our rear drive. So installing our rear drive is relatively easy. We're just going to kind of put this up here, put our bolt and I'm going to call it like the bearing race retainer in. That'll just kind of right there. And now this rear drive is supported and just kind of swinging here. We don't want to let it swing all the way down just because it will leak oil out. And then just like we did on our transmission, we're going to kind of get our splines on our drive shaft arranged so they go together. Move this back and forth to kind of move stuff around, and it should just slide right up, no issues. There it is. You can see it's right, and I can feel the drive shaft. And this is all nice, and I can go ahead and just slide this through. And then our upper bolt here can also be slid through like that. So now our rear drive is installed. Tighten down our top rear drive mount. We're just going to go ahead and tighten up our lower rear drive mount. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you're feeling generous, please consider clicking that join button. We can now go ahead and reinstall our rear wheel speed sensor. So doing that, you have these little clips, kind of there you got your brake rotor, or sorry, your brake caliper and stuff, but kind of fish it around your disc. Drop it in there, kind of feel it nicely seat down into that little pocket there. And then we have our T25 right here. And then obviously the one on the sensor, and then our little clip right there. We can then reinstall our brake caliper. We can then go ahead and reinstall our wheel and exhaust. And then we can go ahead and reinstall our rear mud flap. Thank you so much for watching. And like I said before, if you haven't already, please subscribe. I do videos like this all the time. And if you're feeling generous, please consider joining my channel. And as always, have a safe ride.